Oops. Sorry. Uh, good afternoon, good morning, good day, wherever you may be joining us from. Welcome to another edition of the Digital Download, the longest running weekly business talk show on LinkedIn Live, now globally syndicated on TuneIn Radio through IBGR, the world's #1 business talk, news and strategy radio network. This week on the Digital Download, we are calling out the biggest budget hypocrisy in modern business. Everywhere we look, budgets are being cut, marketing, pay freezes, headcount, the pressure is everywhere. Except in one place, AI. Everyone suddenly has a budget for artificial intelligence. The problem? Most of it is just AI washing. Companies are implementing basic customer service bots and summarizers just to accelerate their cost cutting. But incremental savings aren't a growth strategy. There is another way, a way that unlocks limitless opportunity. We're going to have a discussion about that today. But before we go into the discussion, let's go around the set and introduce everyone. Ellen, do you want to... And by the way, while we do that, why don't you in the audience reach out to a friend, ping them and have them join us? As you know, audience participation is highly encouraged. Ellen, do you want to kick us off, please?
Yes, thanks very much, Bertrand. I'm Helen McKenzie, a proud associate of DLA Ignite, and I suspect soon to be a proud associate of Aspertillo Soup as well. Football's not coming home, but as Bertrand said, we may be battling it out tomorrow night for third place. But what's not in third place is
this one.
But what is not in third place is that whole discussion about AI. I've had calls this week where it's been mentioned, so it's on everybody's lips. So really looking forward to the discussion today.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Ellen. Adam.
Hi, everybody. I'm Adam Gray. I'm co-founder of Aspertillo, and yeah, this idea that we'll just stick an AI badge on it and everything will be okay is rather naive. I think, we've been there before with many new technologies that have promised to revolutionize everything. And I think that people need to think very carefully about how they're implementing AI, and are they actually implementing AI, or are they just playing around at the fringes?
Mm-hmm. Good question. I'm sure we'll have plenty of time to discuss this. Tim.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Tim Hughes. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Aspertillo.ai. I'm also famous for writing the book Social Selling and Influence, using social media for cold outreach and new business sales.
She's carried the book over your shoulder.
Yes, over my shoulder. Yeah, and it's interesting. There's been I've been doing a lot of research recently. You may know, or maybe you don't know, that we released a new product recently called Aspertillo.ai, and it's been interesting talking to people saying, are you using AI? And a lot of people are saying, well, I always get a standard stock answer. There seems to be some stock answer that everybody is downloading off the internet, which is, of course we are. And what that often is what we've got is an AI front end to our CRM system. So we're able to write natural language commands to CRM, which isn't exactly AI, from my opinion. For me, I kind of feel it's more AI washing than AI itself. But welcome, everybody, and thank you, Bertrand, for another interesting episode.
Thank you so much. And myself, Bertrand Godillot, I am the founder and managing partner of Odysseus & Co. and a co-founder of Aspertillo.ai. Let's start with a foundational question, because you've started to uncover that a little bit, Tim. But how would you define AI washing, and what is the biggest red flag that a company is doing it? Who wants to take that one?
Well, I'm happy to start.
Go for it.
I think that one of the things that we see when we look at, particularly across the SaaS world, is that product X now available with AI, and there is an element of AI involved in all of these things. Of course there is, and that's trying to bridge the gap between, if it is a CRM system, as Tim suggested, if it is a CRM system which is incredibly clunky and awkward and time consuming and unnatural to use, you've now got an interface which makes it easier to use. But that's not AI. That's like saying I'm going to put, faster tires on my car and turn it into a racing car. Well, actually, it doesn't turn it into a racing car. It turns it into a car with faster tires on it. And I think a lot of this, the AI labels that are placed on things are placed on those things in order to access that, as you said, Bertrand, at the very beginning, the fact that there are no budget cuts really when AI is involved, because every organization is looking for that magic sauce that they can sprinkle on what it is they're doing to make it more profitable, more effective, whatever. But I think that this, we're going to stick with the same CRM that we know, or we're going to stick with the same email marketing software that we know, or we're going to stick to the same processes and have an AI agent for them. It's just wrapping something in a shiny new shell, rather than fundamentally asking the question, is this effective? And I think we all know from experience that 9 times out of 10, when we go to a website, we are not looking to contact and engage with the AI agent on the website, even if in some cases they're quite good. What we're looking for is the phone number to find a person that we can have a conversation with. And I think that the idea that we can remove people from this equation, and AI is good enough because it saves money, fundamentally doesn't put the customer front and center of what it is that organizations should be trying to do.
And I think I wanted to come in here about the sort of the phrase washing, because it sort of came in, greenwashing and that sort of terminology. And when you think about that, I always think about the so what question, which is so what. I'm using AI, so what? If it's an efficiency thing, so if it's that's a bit of stubble you've got there, Bertrand.
He's actually got sandpaper that he's using to make the place.
It is extremely hot here. That's why.
So if you're using
Wow.
AI for efficiency, so what? So it makes us faster. Fair enough. I can learn how to cut and paste using Control and X and Control and V, or and that will make me faster. It doesn't make me more effective. It's just an efficiency question. And really, the washing comes where you're just focusing on efficiency, I think, because doing things faster just feels to me like, I don't have a paper ledger that I do the accounts in anymore. I use a financial system to do that. So for me, I think that's one of the big questions around that. And what's interesting is it is something that people are being asked, so they are having to respond. So I was speaking to somebody this week where they were telling me that one of their potential customers was asking them how they were using AI. So the product has AI in it, it's a tech product, but also as an organization, how are you doing that? And I think that was interesting in the sense that people are trying to get a feel for what using AI actually means, that sort of litmus test. If I'm just using it like a macro on a spreadsheet, or I'm just using it like some smart shortcuts on my keyboard, then that's not really using AI, is it? But I think the washing thing is interesting in that when you get to the end of it, so what? Does it make a difference? And if it doesn't, other than making us faster, then it isn't really having an impact. So that's where I think washing is. It's getting out the line's not quicker than doing something transformative in getting my clothes clean. How about that?
I guess to a certain extent, it's like the whole self-service thing, isn't it? You know, when you go to the supermarket, you've got a choice of going to a checkout, which has got somebody working there, or going to the self-service part where you are doing the checkout assistant's job and the company is benefiting rather than you from that. And I think that often this AI, the addition of AI without any clear purpose other than, well, we need to have some AI involved in this, never puts the customer at the center of it. It never gives a better experience to the customer. It never, as Bertrand said, it's a cost-cutting exercise rather than a value-increasing exercise. And I think that doesn't mean that AI can't be the value-increasing exercise. But when you make it the interface, you know, at the end of the day, the old saying, people buy people, you know, absolutely, that's the interaction between me, the seller, and you, the buyer, or me, the buyer, and you, the seller, absolutely needs to be human to human. The bit that comes before that is the bit that doesn't need to be human to human.
Okay, great. That was a good starting point. Is there any magic in AI? You know, because is it going to be the you know, because there's a lot of we all know that our dream is to do nothing. So is that the promise?
No.
Yeah, no, no.
No.
You don't think
I
so?
don't think so. I think that, you know, from my point of view, the objective, I mean, you know, whether my life goal is to sit sipping a cocktail looking at the sunset for the rest of my life, it feels very much like that.
On the Isle of Lewis.
Or not. Well, if we still get sunsets, yes. But you know, that feels like that film WALL-E, where all the humans are sort of sat in the.
Where's Wally?
Where, you know, yeah, is it Where's Wally or Wally anyway? Where he's not Where's Wally. That's in a picture, and you've got to find him. He's like a little robot, and all the humans are sort of laid there being fed through a straw. That's not my objective. You know, the thing that gives me the biggest reward in life is human relationships. I mean, this is one example of it. Having a blether with you three about AI washing and you know, bottom line and AI is interesting, and conversations with people who may or may not buy from me are the other bit that, you know, as Adam references. So I think that there's something around how it transforms experience. So that's where I would say AI is making a difference, where it transforms the experience. Now that might be around effectiveness, back to my effectiveness, in that it makes what we do more effective. It changes how we make a difference, or how my product makes a difference, or how my service makes a difference. I think that's where I would pitch it. And that, you know, when I think about a procurement technology solution, so spend analytics, let's pick that. So huge amounts of data where it's analysed to produce insight. Now, the way AI helps with that is to make the process of going through all that data, understanding what's in it, and helping to taxonomize it and to make it into data that humans can interpret is part of what it does. So in a sense, AI makes it faster, but the speed is what makes the difference. You know, having to wait 4 months for people to go through loads of invoices means the impact of what you can do, the so what bit, is less because you're out of date. So I don't know. I'm sort of going all over the place here, but I think that you know, that's where I think that it's the objective isn't for there to be no humans, because actually, if there's no humans, then there's no why are we trading with each other? What, just to put figures on a balance sheet? You know, human beings are why everything gets done, aren't they? If there's no human beings, there's no reason to do anything.
I think the other thing is that AI is incredibly powerful to enable people to do things that they otherwise haven't had time to do or the knowledge to do. Mm-hmm. So let's assume that you start a weaving business in the Isle of Lewis to make use of the wool of your sheep, and you think to yourself, I need to build a website for this, and I don't know how to build a website. and it's a new business, so I can't afford to pay somebody to build a website for me. So I'm going to buy a book on building a website, and then I'm going to spend weeks learning how to build a basic website and then upload that website. Now you get the opportunity to get AI to take that away from you. And is it going to be the best possible website? Well, probably not. However, the difference is that you have a website rather than not having a website. And I think that it has a great power to be able to enable you to do things and to learn things. So we said about summarizing, if you are going for a job interview and you want to go to a particular, you're talking about going to a particular organization, it enables you to do some research effectively and quickly on that organization. And you can ask it to interview you, ask me some challenging questions because this is my background and I'm looking for a job in this organization. And it provides an incredible sounding board in that environment, something that you may not otherwise be able to do. However, I think the fundamental problem with it is that if you're an expert at something and you get AI to do it, it will probably not do it as well as you can do it, because it is effectively the summary and the aggregation of everybody's knowledge. And not, if you're an expert, you're at the top of the tree rather than middle band, aren't you?
Well, I think I like this one, Adam. Let me reply to this one. I think if you're an expert, what makes an expert is a point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And this is exactly what you won't get. You will get average.
Yeah.
By design, you will get average. And this is why it is frustrating for experts to use this kind of tool if they don't give their own context. So meaning their connection, their conviction, their beliefs, their point of views, so that their teammate is more knowledgeable and probably more aligned with you. I think there's also two speeds into the business world right now. There are people who are solopreneurs, small companies who embrace at a pace that is absolutely incredible, both in terms of coverage and so wide width and depth into their business, so that clearly, you could perfectly use Claude and a bunch of MCPs, using technical terms here, to integrate with Salesforce, with your Salesforce instance, and potentially your bug tracking system and your pipeline, so that you end up figuring out that this customer that you're about to sign a deal with may not be in the best situation right now. So you'd better do a little bit of a little bit of care before you actually turn up with an extension or a renewal. That is reality for a number of small business, not to talk about the independent. I like the website example because that's a very good example of things that you can do in addition to what you were doing before. Because there's so much of this is looked at, how can I do faster what I was already doing? And we know that this can be an issue in some areas because you're just reproducing approaches that are completely off track. I mean, from the previous century, and therefore you're going nowhere. But if you start thinking about the stuff that you could do in addition, so that it would generate potential additional revenue, that is a very different situation. So that's and I see this happening into solopreneur businesses and small businesses. For large businesses, there is a slightly different landscape, and this is where context will be very difficult to overcome as a challenge to enabling AI, because basically, you could be the best AI player in your space. If you don't have the context, then you're not going to be a very good forecast, for instance, companion, or turnover companion. So if you want an HR companion, if you want to anticipate people leaving, or things like that. So there are quite a number of acquisitions in billions running right now from AI companies willing to acquire context companies, so people who own the data. And to be honest, I don't think that Salesforce will let.
There's a whole ecosystem environment in San Francisco of organizations, not AI companies, but basically data companies and training AI. Sorry, Adam.
No, I was just going to say, so the context and the grounding of the AI is absolutely crucial to provide relevant and on-point responses. So what can I, as a solopreneur who's just started my guitar cleaning business, what can I do to ground the AI and teach it what it needs to know about this industry before it starts to give me advice? That's a genuine question.
Great question, Adam.
What should I be doing? So I've bought Gemini or Claude or ChatGPT or whatever it may be. I've bought an instance of that, and I'm in the free trial period of that. What am I going to do to start to get value from this? Because I think that all of us, when we went into AI to begin with, we sort of said, write me a blog about this, and it writes something which is irrelevant, or give me some insights about this, and some of the insights are wrong. So how should people start grounding this?
Pretty simple answer from my perspective. It's an HR onboarding process. So when you hire someone new into your organization, you start by explaining what is it that you are selling, what is your added value, what are your value propositions, therefore who these value propositions are supposed to resonate with. So that gives you a number of ideal customer profiles. You probably have a few punchlines or a few phrases that you like to use to differentiate from your competition, a few beliefs, point of views. And this is something that you need to onboard anyone joining your organization. And I think it goes exactly the same way for any AI teammate. And this is not about prompting.
No.
Enough of free prompts and stuff like that. Well, prompting is kind of mainstream right now, so there's no point discussing this. Although there are still lots of people trying to sell prompts. While the actual ground is in engineering, is in context engineering, whether you are coding or whether you are writing blogs.
It's funny, isn't it? Because even a year ago, the word on the street was that the next big job was going to be a prompt engineer. And, for the next decade, prompt engineer is going to be the most sought after person. And now, a year down the road, it's like, no, it's not the way
to a penny.
Yeah. But still, we see a huge number of people that say, my secrets to whatever it may be, all you need to do is write prompt in the as a comment, and I will DM you.
It's quaint, isn't it? It's quaint. It's lovely.
Yeah,
it's a bit like wearing a top hat, and it's even Victorian, isn't it? Napoleon, Bertrand.
So one of the things that we were going to talk about was this idea of an AI teammate. So Bertrand, you're the expert on this. What is an AI teammate? It's a phrase that we hear quite a lot. And so what is an AI teammate as opposed to I've just signed up for ChatGPT?
Well, that's probably the next the next level, which is someone who's is someone. I just said it. It is an addition to your team, and I would actually say that now we've reached the point where you would actually add a team manager of teammates. Because this is where we are right now. Whether you use embedded solutions at Anthropic or any other vendor, or if you make up your mind and decide to use, I don't know, OpenClaw, Hermes Agent, or whatever as the core technology. So we're no longer onboarding one additional headcount, you could say, but literally you could onboard a team of headcounts with an account manager and specialized. So you think about skills, competencies. It's basically competencies, digital competencies, knowledge, and I would say the main difference is that now you are in a position to take actions instead of just chatting and getting things done, but collaboratively very much. We're now getting into delegation and control, so that you could have, your head of dev being an agent, using 5, 6, 7 different agents. Could be technology-based, process-based, things that a group of people that would act on your behalf, basically, and achieve things, which is quite quite crazy when you think about it.
So an AI teammate is a team, and you need to go through the same onboarding process with them that you would with a person. You've hired somebody that's clever, that's got some basic knowledge about things, and you have to train them about what your products and services are and who your customers are and what your value proposition is and all of that.
And I would say the same rule applies, by the way. Always hire someone who's better than yourself, and that also works there. So it also means setting objectives. And rather setting smart objectives, which means also that you're going to have reviews. And I think the whole idea of, if you want to, where we are right now is really designing processes and designing supply chains, basically, almost Kanban supply chains, where control is also important. It's not only doing things, but it's checking the level of quality, and to some degree, being in a position to reject some results, ask for rework, things like that. So it's really that type of mindset that when we really talk about adding value through this new technology, we need to think about how we adopt this technology and not just apply this technology to the way we were working before. That's where we make a slight difference, right? We're not. There's not about AI washing. So it's not about putting a layer on AI on top of this. It's really rethinking how we can work more effectively, but also do things that we were not doing before, leveraging this new tool. That's the way I see it, at least. And I'm sure that Tim has a point of view on that. And
I was going to say, I'm going to name drop, sorry, but I was interviewing Charlene Lee, the AI expert, this week on my podcast, and she said something really interesting, which I thought I would share, which was that, and I know other people have said it, but I think it's useful for the discussion, which is that because we've seen people either cutting jobs or cutting budgets, and then kind of expecting AI to step in. And she's certainly of the opinion, which is if you've got 10 people, what people seem to be doing is getting rid of 9 people, keeping 1 and having AI. And she said that's not what you should be doing, is that you should be empowering. And the key thing is that whenever you do anything with AI, there has to be an empowerment process. So as you said, Adam, and Bertrand, you talked about grounded data. There also has to be a process in getting people to understand why they're actually using AI and actually how to use it. And her advice was to basically to take your 10 people and empower them all with AI.
Mhm.
And go that way rather than actually using AI as a way of getting, and laying off people.
All right, we do have a question from the audience. Patrick, hi Patrick.
Hi, Pat.
You want to take this one, Tim?
Yes. Patrick Tinney says, quality control is a big issue with AI. Is there any benchmarking on this yet? Good question.
Well, the benchmark I've got on using AI is when somebody sends me a LinkedIn message or an email with the wrong name on it.
That's the perfect lack of control.
There's no QA there. I mean, it's interesting because I'm on the board of a housing association, so an organisation that provides rented housing, and we are very keen to use AI within the organisation because we want to release the time of the people in the organisation to do the things that only people can do, which is to impact outcomes for the tenants in a number of ways. Now, one of the things that we've been talking about is around the governance of that and the quality control of that, because if you're going to enable your organisation through a teammate or otherwise to really harness the power of AI to do things, you need to be clear that that's going to be on brand, that it's going to be within any governance and any policies that you've got. And that's one of the things that's quite difficult when you've, just got the Microsoft suite and Copilot with it. Is that how do you settle that governance around it? And I think that is a really good question from Patrick, because I think that's one of the corporate risks, is that you sort of say to people, off you go, create or here's some teammates we've created that you can use for all of this stuff, and you don't know whether you can safeguard against the risk of somebody doing something with one of your most significant customers that actually jeopardizes that whole relationship, or because there wasn't proper quality control on benchmark. And I'm just thinking how somebody in the team might be using AI to do the job, there isn't quality control, and then there's an impact on the bottom line because perhaps that customer doesn't renew, or because the mistake is so not catastrophic in a life and limb threatening situation, but catastrophic for that relationship. So it's quite an interesting.
You raised a really interesting point there, Helen. You said you work for the Housing Trust, or you're on the board of the Housing Trust, and they're trying to embrace AI to free up time of people within the organisation to do the things that only humans can do. I'm paraphrasing what you said. So how do those people decide which things get passed to AI and which things are things that only humans can do? Because I think that's a really big question, isn't it? I'm afraid I'm going to have to sack you. I'll get AI to write your letter of dismissal. Actually we're laughing because it's obvious that that's not something that one should do. I bet that's one of the first things that people do get AI to do, though.
Yeah.
So how do you make that delineation about AI can do this job, I need to give it this information and ground it in this way, and AI can't do this job?
I think there's something about where being human and being a person is important. So we talk a lot about authenticity and being human, don't we? And I'm having a conversation with somebody. AI can't do. Well, it can if it's on a WhatsApp group. That could be AI. I mean, we've all, or perhaps it's just me, but we've all stumbled into a rather long conversation when you realise you're talking to a bot. But I think, so for the housing association's point of view, it's about where human relationships are going to impact the effect for the tenants. So that might be, you know, providing support in a particularly difficult time. It might be helping somebody find solutions. It might just be because the person involved prefers to speak to a human being like we are. But I that would be, I mean, and when I think about it from a business point of view, I think about competitive advantage. Where is it that having humans involved, either for innovation, ideas, or for that actually enhance the process because humans are involved, does that give you a competitive advantage over somebody else? Is that helping you to stay ahead? Is that helping you to retain customers? I don't know. These are the sorts of things that I think of where people, you know, people make a difference and make a difference in terms of bottom line, and you know, keeping the lights on, keeping the money coming in.
I think that's. I mean, you said it. From my perspective, it's different. Where do you make a difference? So, is this not working if you are not involved? I think it's probably the best way to look at this, because everything else then is a candidate for being endorsed by one of your teammates. And when it comes to quality control, because I just wanted to circle back on this one. Very simple example. Translations, internet localization of content is a good example where you could put two LLMs working not against each other, but one translating, the other one checking the translation. That is very efficient, actually. Because then that increases the quality of the overall output, basically.
So Pat's come back and said on that, following his question, quality control is a big issue with AI. Is there any benchmarking on this? He said, I read something recently that many companies are not seeing the investment working out. One example was that a company only made 17% on investment of each dollar they spent. I wonder if some companies are not fit for AI. I think I read the same article, actually, Pat. And I think what we're all seeing as a group is that people are investing AI and they're not necessarily seeing a return on it. There's a lot of hype about it, and people are not getting the return. And I think what's happening is that senior people in organizations, when they see figures like that, when if you're paying out money out of your own pocket to empower people with AI and you're not seeing return.
But isn't the danger that empowering people is not the answer, it's teaching people is the answer? And I think that, you know, I'm sure that is the case, that 17 cents on the dollar in terms of a return is not uncommon. But ultimately, the mistake, and you know, we all believe very strongly in planning and understanding, you know, I'm going to do this activity and I'm hoping it's going to deliver this benefit. And I think that there's a huge amount of, well, we'll just throw a bucket of AI on that and it'll solve the problem, which is ludicrous to assume that. And maybe the other issue is that you've been doing stuff a certain way, Tim, for 30 years. And then all of a sudden I say, here's a Claude license, away you go, mate. And you go away, and then 2 weeks later, I come back and say, how's that working out for you? And you say, well, I've only had time to switch it on for half an hour because I've been really busy doing other stuff. And, you know, potentially there's not been a lot of runway given to organizations to actually see any benefit and understand how these tools can add value to their organizations.
I think that's where I don't think everybody in the organization needs to be able to do that, though. I think my experience of people is that, you know, some people are just content to get on with it within the guardrails that management have said that they can do things. You have some team members that are really keen on stuff and want to find out and learn and try and do. And I think that so you don't need everybody in the team to be AI enabled and able to think the unthinkable about how AI can be used. But I think that's where we need to just think about who needs what skills. And back to my point about governance and guardrails, I know it sounds really boring, but it's one of the big questions is around how do we stop enthusiastic amateurs within the organization doing something with AI that's going to impact the business. And so that might be why people are sticking in the comfort zone of efficiency uses, because efficiency uses feel very safe, don't they? Whereas effectiveness uses where we enable creativity, we enable people to put stuff out into the public domain or do things in the public sphere that might impact on our business, that feels more risky, and perhaps we won't go anywhere near that. I don't know.
And I think I agree, Helen, which is that I think what happens is that our comfort zone or the way that we work naturally is that we go to things that we are used to, and then try and see if we can AI that. So, for example, we were sitting down talking. Sorry, you weren't here then, Helen, but we were sitting down talking a year ago, where we were going, why are people creating robocallers and faster spam emailers? Because that's not how people buy. That's how people sell. But it's just the obvious thing to do, which is you go, oh, I've got a whole bunch of a team of people over there cold calling. What we'll do is we'll automate it, rather than saying, actually, is there a way that we could do things better? How do people buy? Okay, what we'll do is that we'll create a platform that allows you to build trust and relationships. And so that's kind of one of the differences that I see. But I'm not expecting everybody to come up and innovate, as you say. And I think Pat actually comes up with a good idea. If you're only getting a 17 cents return on a dollar, then maybe AI isn't right for you.
Yeah. But you wonder whether there's that amount of scrutiny on some of the other things that people are doing that appear to make sense. So back to your, automate your calling and your techniques. Let's have a marketing campaign where we send a sequence of emails to people that gets I don't know.
But people don't buy 1%. Like that's the thing.
No, but also
it's how we sell.
People in the business don't evaluate those things in the same way. So you're talking about 17 cents on the dollar for AI, but if your mass marketing is only generating one sale or 1% in terms of ultimate sales that convert, I know there's a lot of things that go on in the middle of that, then there doesn't seem to be as much skepticism on some of these generally accepted ways of doing things within the business. So it feels like AI has been judged a little bit, and not that we shouldn't, but the bar is higher for AI than it is for some of the traditional techniques, because again, they feel safer, that we know they're on message, that there's a process to do them. So that's interesting. I think whether everything.
But I think we've now had AI for mainstream AI for 3.5 years, and there has to be a situation where leadership, I'm talking about CFOs, are going, are we getting a return? And going and saying what do we need to do to how can we actually make money from this? On a lighter note, I'm just going to say I actually met Mr. Bot this week. If your name is Bot, sorry about this, but you must. It's a bit like being called smoke too much, isn't it, or something like that? Sorry. I didn't even Mr. Bot this week. So when you said you were talking to a bot, I was wonder if it was the same person.
No.
Sorry about that. Just I just thought I'd add some humour to the.
Yeah, it's Friday. It's Friday. That's okay.
I think one of the other things is that as AI stands, it is a limitless toolkit and series of building blocks. And this is like Tim wants to buy Tim has owned them in the past, a new BMW. So he can't decide quite which version of the 3 Series to get. So what they do is they send him a lorry load of parts, and he can then pick the seats, the dials, the engine, the wheels, the suspension, the color that he wants, and configure it himself.
Meccano.
Yeah. Now it strikes me that that's what AI seems to be at the moment. We've got these incredibly powerful tools, and people are the tools are not constructed with a single outcome or purpose in mind. They are simply a limitless set of possibilities. And I think that part of the challenge here for most organizations is they're not actually quite sure what they want it to do. They want to be more effective. They want to be more efficient. They want to make money. They want to scale their organization. Of course, these are fundamental business desires, but they don't know what tools are going to do that. And that's why they default back, as you said, Tim, to robocalling and sending more emails, because actually they do know something about that. Oh, well, we'll just use this to dial up the number of calls that we make, or dial up the volume of email that we send. And actually what they should be doing is looking, again, as you said, Tim, that's not how we buy, that's how we sell. They should look at how people buy and then say, how can we map what we do to that? And when you and I worked at a large tech company, often when you were looking at how you would approach,
work there as well.
Of course, yeah. How you would approach a large organization, you would do customer journey mapping. And it was nothing to do with the buyer's buying journey, and everything to do with your selling journey. So at this point, we're going to send them this, and at this point, we're going to call them up, and at this point, we're going to invite them to an exhibition, and that will help shepherd them through this process. But at no point did you stop and say, actually, what do they need? Yeah, what do they need to move them on to the next stage, but not what do they need as an individual.
A bit of content, Adam. That's usually what moves them to the next stage.
Yeah, emailed out to them, but not just any old bit of content, Tim. A white paper. By your people about how great your product is.
Yeah,
but
this table would be wobbly without white papers.
but the irony is that we've now got an incredible set of tools, but we don't know what to do with this set of tools.
Oh, God.
Well, that creates opportunity for people who are have the framework within their organization. I've definitely got the governance hat on today, but we have the framework in the organization to empower the people in the organization to be creative, to be human, to go forward with things that are actually going to make a difference. And back to it, if I was in one of the roles where I was a senior leader where I was in the past, I'd be asking the so what question every day to all of the ideas that people were coming up with. And so what, how does that affect what we're here to do? And from the point of view of my role just now, which is to have more conversations with people, to hopefully transform the way they get conversations by using some of the approaches that we deploy. Actually, if it's not going to do that, what am I doing? So what? So I think I don't know.
Have you seen Pat's question?
Where are we?
Is AI more important in creating empirical data, or is it more impactful on creativity?
You see, I think I'm in the, from my point of view, Patrick, I'm in the, if AI enables the creative part of my brain to be creative, I'm a great one for, not having anything in my head and writing it down and reminding myself and not, trying to leave the space in my brain to be creative. Then I think the more AI can provide the space for people to be creative, I think that's where it could be really important. Just as having a Hoover to vacuum up bits off the floor means it takes less time, which means you've got more time to be more creative than when my poor granny was on her hands and knees with a stiff brush.
But I
sweeping the
think
bits
the
off of
problem, though, is that not many tech vendors are building Hoovers. You know, Tim said Meccano. They're offering Meccano kits. And I think that part of the problem is when you are offered a Meccano kit and it says, you know, there's a carpet washing machine that you can build from this, or a Hoover that you can build from this, or an air purifier you can build from this, or you become lost. And what I see either tech vendors producing having AI bolt-ons to dubiously effective products that are currently being made, and it streamlines a process that doesn't work, and we mentioned that, or a whole universe of possibilities. You know, so you sign up for Claude, and well, you can build anything you want, but that actually doesn't help me. What I need is for you to build me something, and for me to say that solves a problem I have, or it doesn't, in which case I won't buy it. But if it does, it works. It doesn't need for me to build it. And there seems to be very little of that out there at the moment.
Do you think it's a bit like, it feels to me like, you know, when the solar system formed and all the gases were starting to coalesce, that actually you've got all of those building blocks in AI, but as the market starts to work out, you know, what the best use case of it all is, then it will start to solidify into things. And as you say, I mean, I had a license to do stuff on WordPress once, but I never built a website with it, because why would I? Somebody else I knew could do it a lot better and quicker than me. I just got them to do it. So it could be that we're just in that place where everything's flowing around, and actually as it coalesces, no, as it coalesces, sorry viewers, that was Tim in the private chat being cheeky, but as it starts to coalesce, then actually the use case isn't that we all just have access to the blank sheet. The use case is that, a bit like the App Store and being able to build things to put on an iPhone, actually that's where we end up with lots and lots of apps rather than the ability to build stuff on the iPhone in the first place.
Yes, but they are integrated. I think that, you know, going back to, I think there is really a big push right now on integration. So there's this idea that at the end of the day, we almost no longer need a user interface, and things happen.
And Johnny, I released his speaker this week, didn't he?
All right.
Yeah. The guy that was
Apple,
who designed the iPhone, who's gone to OpenAI. It was in the same week that OpenAI, that Apple are suing OpenAI because they've taken 400 of their phone engineers. There's no correlation between the two, honest. But Johnny, basically, his first thing that he's produced, which is AI, is a speaker. Nothing like Alexa, of course,
or the HomePod.
Yeah, whatever the Google thing is.
Yeah. Other things to moan at because they've got your accent wrong are available.
All right. Well, that was a good Friday, actually. Good talk, good chat.
And thanks, Pat. We're not going to, by the way, your next question is a whole episode in itself. So we're not going to go there. Sorry.
But we keep it for next time. All right. Excellent. Well, thank you, team. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
If you want to have more on this episode, and sorry, Tim and Ellen, you've got to move slightly around this. If you want to do more about this episode and the upcoming ones, you can flash the QR code on screen or visit us at digitaldownload.live/newsletter. Thank you to our audience. Thank you, Patrick. Thanks, everyone, and see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.